Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Inno track. This track will discuss sector spotlights and how startups leverage digital transformation to tap new market opportunities. Enterprises and startups all see digital transformation as vital for enabling growth, competitiveness, and even business survival in today's challenging markets. The first panel discussion is on transformative technology for the next normal. We're delighted to have Ms. Venus Lee, Managing Director of Economic Digest, to moderate this session. The panelists of the session are Mr. Zhou, Investment Partner, Head of APAC Investment, Lego Ventures, Mr. Edmond Lau, Managing Director, Lingfeng Capital, Engineer Andrew Young, Associate Director, Innovation, Sino Group, and Mr. Alexander Chen, Co-Director, The Mills Fabrica. I will now pass the floor to Venus. Venus, please.
Thank you very much for joining the panel this afternoon. Maybe I have a quick round of introductions of our guests. Next to me is Alex from Mills Fabrica, and then is Edmond from the Lingfeng Capital, and Andrew from Sino Group. And we also have a guest that Zhou, which is from Lego Ventures, that will join us through the Zoom. So maybe I think today we talk about the COVID, which is a very interesting year for all of us. So I think it is interesting for us to share a bit. So from your perspective, what are the transformative technology you think in your respective area that you think is very interesting this year coming out? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll start first. Obviously, we see a lot of remote communication tools, no matter for meetings or for communication, and what we find is there's a requirement for financial institutions to use such tools as well. As you probably expect, the financial institutions spend like hundreds of thousands of money or even millions of money to create a very secured email system and internet access to keep track of the records for audit and regulatory requirements. But with the usage of smartphone, and especially nowadays, people cannot go out. So a lot of staff is actually using the short message applications on a mobile to communicate with the clients, which is not particular compliance and it's quite against the regulations. So we've seen a powerful company in Hong Kong target this area, and make a very simple to use like compliant short message system such that the staff in financial institutions like legal firms and even like property shopping malls can communicate with the clients like very, very effectively. I think this is one of the areas that we look into.
Yeah. Is there anything interesting in the fashion and style or consumer side from Alex? Yeah.
I think so. We see like two main categories of innovations, right? There's some that are more addressing the short-term challenges of COVID. So, for example, in fashion, because of lockdowns, there's a huge buildup of inventory in stores. Yeah. So we've seen technologies helping to actually handle excess inventory through second-hand platforms, through recycling. But another category that we see is innovations thinking about what that future of supply chain or retail look like because of COVID. So because of COVID, everything has gone digital. How can traditional retailers, for example, increase their e-commerce share? So we've seen, for example, Shopify partnering with Walmart for a very special partnership. Same for supply chain side. How can there be more sort of digital production, digital sampling, for example? So we've seen a lot of software, hardware innovation in that scene as well.
Yeah. So maybe any sharings from Andrew?
I actually see COVID, it has been driving innovation and jettisoning it forward. What I meant is being that, for example, we see robotics application, AI robotic application being expedited. So it's brought forward maybe 2 to 3 years at least. So we suddenly see a lot more robots being used, whereas before we kind of everybody keep an eye on it. But now they're in real life use because of COVID. So they're used in property management, they're used in a nursing home, etc. And the other aspect we also see is that I think the concept of smart city is coming up faster because we all need more data, we all need more sensor, we need to know about the environment. For example, for us, we've been looking at sanitization technology, we've been looking at advanced sensing to give us more data. Because if you know your environment, we can better take care of it. And I also see medical technology being crossed over with property technology. So for example, there are medical devices that really keep track of, in the past they use in telemedicines, but with COVID, I think people are more conscious, and we see technology being used domestically because people just want to be more concerned about their own well-being. So they might wear a medical device to know that their heartbeat is lower, their blood oxygen is lower. Do I have a chance of picking up COVID? So I think those are coming in from the B2B market into the B2C market. So we can see that crossover, quite interesting.
Yeah, so I think another area I think is very interesting is on education, because in the past, a lot of schools and teachers, they say they embrace digital, but still actually they are very physical. But right now, actually this year, we all need to go digital. So maybe we can actually invite Josh to share a bit on the education side, what you see is the latest technology on your scope.
Yeah, thank you. Because we are very focused on education and digital play, because LEGO is very, very supportive of learning through play. The COVID-19 definitely pushes for more digitalization of EdTech. But at the same time, we are also starting to think about what are the next generation technologies that will actually push the EdTech to the next level. In our opinion, how you can actually map the offline experiences to online, how to make it more personalized, adaptive, interactive, and socialized. A lot of those things are still on the way. We think the COVID-19 pushes the EdTech industry to emerge in many countries, but at the same time leaves a lot of questions on how to make the digital learning more tangible and experimental. So this is the thing that we think has a lot of potential. We are looking into some of the experiences, that hybrid experience that would deliver a lot of hands-on and minds-on learning digitally. And honestly, this is still on the way, and I think it's a good time, at least for us. We feel excited that we are looking at a lot of tailwinds in the industry, but at the same time, there could be a lot of room for early stage companies to change this industry in a very big scale and quite big magnitude.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe I actually want to get the discussion a bit more focused on different areas, because we have actually a very diverse experts in this panel. So maybe start with fintech. So Edmond, actually in Hong Kong, as you said, your investment is start from China, and then you're actually involved a lot of portfolios right now in Hong Kong as well. Actually, Hong Kong is very strong in financially, but in terms of digital, to be frank, I think China is actually getting very early stage already in e-commerce, digital payment, and even online products. But Hong Kong right now this year is interesting. We have virtual banking rolls out, and we also have the online finance insurance products coming out. So how you see actually the startup environment in Hong Kong for the fintech area, and what you think and something that we can leverage on this area?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we focus a lot on fintech investment. So we are very active in the whole Greater China area, especially as well as Asia and other regions as well. When we see, payment, online shopping and other areas that is well developed in China, I think, this is generally is a trend globally. We see like virtual bankings, not just in China, but in UK, Europe, Asia, different countries, Singapore, Taiwan, etc., etc. So it's a general trend that we cannot avoid. With the use of mobile phone, then makes these trends much more easier, right? So, but a lot of people have been complaining about payment. Hong Kong payment has been like that, of 10 years. I think the reason behind is whether with addition of new applications or new technology, whether in general will improve the productivity in general, right, of the whole society. So would it be able to provide cheaper products for the customers, faster transactions, easier to use experience, etc. So, so now it's kind of a head-to-head, and I think the incumbents also have their own strength. So I would expect, while this is a trend to move towards like mobile payment, there could be a coexistence for a number of years. And ultimately, who is going to be the winner will be those who could provide like cheaper services, and also like more customized services to the consumer. So it's a matter of whether the cost of infrastructure, like the POS, like the cost of acquisition, customer acquisition, and also like the fees, the division of fees behind. That's a function of those. So it's interesting to watch, and it's interesting to get involved as well. Like in terms of e-commerce, I think it's no stranger to like any citizens who have been buying goods like in the US, in Japanese or Korean websites and China website. And now we've seen that in the past like 1.5 years, the GMV growth in the local platform has been doing quite well as well. So that this trend will certainly be continued, especially in this like COVID environment. In other areas, like there's been a lot of development as well. So it's really an exciting time to see the fintech, the growth of the fintech space. One area would be also like blockchain solutions, which separately is a very big topic that we can discuss later on. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Actually, I want to invite Josh to share a bit on the technology areas. I think you actually mentioned about the hybrid model. So I want to invite your sharing on how you think the edtech in Hong Kong will be evolved after the COVID period or in the future, and what you think will be actually the Hong Kong startup, how they can actually leverage their roles in Hong Kong to, spin off on a more bigger potential.
First of all, I may not be an expert in Hong Kong edtech like environment, but I definitely have some observations and ideas, and I could also share some of the experiences we see across the globe to see which model could actually fit Hong Kong a little bit better. First of all, I think when we look at the Hong Kong edtech, I think we can divide it into in-school and also after school, or we usually say at-home learning. I think these are very two different categories. For in-school, I believe Hong Kong has a very well-established education infrastructure, so that a lot of, I think, the global products can actually install and implement it in Hong Kong public school system. We can share one company later, like how it was able to actually scale and globalize. And also for next generation at-home learning, I think Hong Kong, I think it has a very, very unique group of customers, very westernized, very affluent, where I think a lot of very advanced pedagogy and a lot of very strong product learning efficacy proven products can be actually really tested and fly in Hong Kong and receive a very good actually price point. So I think these are the two. I think these are the two things that I think could be a very strong application to the Hong Kong market. But in terms of how the companies can scale, in my opinion, there are several ways that we can look at. I think one way we look at is the European and also what we see in Asia, South Korea. These are the markets that the home market itself is not big enough, but at the same time they are very strong at product innovation. They are very focused on pedagogy development, very focused on innovation in product itself. I think this is the way that I think Hong Kong market, especially Hong Kong startups, should actually focus on. And I believe there's a lot of academic resources and also the talent that we find in Hong Kong that are actually qualified of building up some products like that. But to also scale up, we also need to be mindful of the market. And this we will usually mention to talk about China and Southeast Asia, sometimes India, where those markets are actually very, very big, has very strong customer needs, but at the same time, the product advancement is still relatively limited or behind some of the more advanced products. Even in China, I would say we look at China companies a lot. A lot of them are very sales-driven and platform-driven. But in terms of the learning efficacy and outcomes, there's still a long way to go. And I believe this is the market that could be very lucrative to the Hong Kong startups from a product development perspective. I don't think the startups should really focus on operations, because this is not the place that I think a lot of operation kind of expertise should come from. So that's my observation from the Hong Kong edtech space.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I want to invite Andrew to share a bit, because property actually definitely is a hot topic in Hong Kong's consumer side. So I know that you are actually have the running the Inno Lab in Sino, and I think you have a lot of interesting ideas to share with us on in terms of property, or you mentioned about the wealth, health as well. So what are you see the coming future development in this area?
Right, we kind of look at the future tech trend. As you know, I mean, Hong Kong is still pretty much dominated by the property sectors. And I think there's a common trend we see, all the major developers, everybody is heading towards adopting some innovation in the property sales. Recently, if you see all the property sales, various developer, there'll be a robot here, there'll be something smart control there. So I think those are what we call the immediate technology, which is good. I think we all need to move forward. But in moving forward, I think we certainly see the GBA, the Greater Bay Area, and especially with the mainland's very clear strategy and policy on technology for the future. So for a group, on one hand, we look at PropTech, which is what Sino Inno Lab is primarily focusing on, because we believe technology would help to improve efficiency. So whether you would use big data analytic, recently we did a project with a Cyberport company, Negawatt, which is helping us to use AI to streamline sequencing and controls of air conditioning, and that brings in a very direct benefits. And those are, very good example working with the tech and startup company that will bring direct benefit into it. But moving forward in the future, recently we just started we just announced Accelerator with Ping An Technology last week, and we want to focus on what future technology we can source we focus on GBA, but globally and within nationally, and also from Hong Kong, to look at the application of those technology in GBA. But beyond that, we've been looking at environmental, which is we have issued a sustainability statement to reduce waste. So we've been looking at wind energy, plastic reduction of plastic usage. Technology can help us to do that. But on the other side, we're also very interested in healthcare technology, because we can see a lot of healthcare, not necessarily the drugs and the molecules and the stem cell kind of things, but how can MedTech help improve how we provide a living environment for the tenants. So I think in the future, we actually see a lot more opportunity. And given COVID, the awareness of consumer, awareness of buyer will be much more explicitly looking for something. So I think that really is opportunity for tech startup to really explore. I mean, right now it's a bit of a difficult time, but I think moving forward, we actually believe there's a lot of opportunity in Hong Kong and also in GBA. I think it's one of the major focus area.
I think you have bring in quite some interesting topic. I think one of them is the sustainability, because I think a lot of corporation is talking about this area, and I actually want to invite Alex to share a bit, because Mills Fabrica is actually talking about or promoting sustainability and also the innovations between the style and tech. So maybe you can share a bit more on, in Hong Kong, what you think is some upcoming technology in this area, and as Andrew mentioned about the Greater Bay Area, I think definitely in textile or in fashion side, then Hong Kong has a very key role to play.
I guess like Hong Kong has a legacy in the textiles and apparel industry. If you think about a lot of the largest textile manufacturers in the world, a lot of them are Hong Kong companies. They might not manufacture in Hong Kong anymore, but headquarters is still here, and it creates an opportunity for Hong Kong to be innovative in this space, specifically for sustainability. So this has become a hot topic in the fashion space. Two main reasons, right? One is because of regulation. A lot more regulation globally. For example, like EU banning use of certain chemicals or dyes in the treatment process, carbon tax on sort of production, as well as consumers, right? The new generation of consumers are now a lot more aware that fashion is the second largest polluter in the world, right? They want to see the big brands address some of these in their products. So we have seen opportunities where if you have technologies that are innovating in new materials, in new production process, in software that helps reduce waste, for example, those are areas that actually these manufacturers or supply chains or brands would want to adopt. In Hong Kong, we have seen two examples, right? So one is a Cyberport company called Unspun. They basically are doing a 3D weaving machine where through taking a 3D measurements, they can actually produce clothing on demand. So preventing excess inventory and wastage. Another example is also research funded by the Hong Kong government. So HK Retail's the textiles and apparel research arm of the government. They came up with a technology that does end-to-end garment recycling. So you can bring your clothes to them. They have a series of machines that can actually recycle garments completely. And again, partly it's to reduce wastage, but also set in consumer minds that these are something that's possible. As consumers, we can take greater action as well. So with the HK Reader's technology, they started with the first store in Hong Kong at the Mills, but this month they just announced a second store launch with H&M in Stockholm. So we're seeing this technology slowly scaling up from Hong Kong and then to the rest of the world as well.
That's a good news for women. When we go shopping, we feel less guilty a bit, at least on something that is technology that is related to recycling, sustainability, and things like that. And another topic Andrew just mentioned about, I think it's interesting to bring up, is on artificial intelligence or big data. So I think every area relate to these areas. So we are actually using a lot of data related to finance side or even on the education side or property side. Maybe you can share a bit on your respective area. How you think this big data thing will be evolving? Will that be taking up, recommending me to buy whatever portfolio coming up in terms of insurance product or banking product and things like that?
Certainly. In terms of like fintech area, the use of data and AI has been getting more and more popular. We see a lot of like startup working in this area, and some of them have been growing very, very fast already. So, like first of all, like you may find an application in terms of like capturing your customer profile, with your behavior, let's say on your mobile phone, without leaking any privacy information. That can be done. Secondly, is the capability of getting like customized financial products on a timely fashion. That can be done. And in some like corporate usage, you'll find like applications like document automation. You may find detection of fraud or fraud cases, a correlation of fraud cases. That is a combination of use of the data, both public data and private data in the corporation, as well as the AI algorithm. So has been ongoing and definitely will be having like big company in this area.
Yeah. Maybe I also want to invite George to share a bit. I think data will be also an interesting area on the education side. So based on the different progress of the students or the learning process, then I think data will also have a good role to play on customization as well. Maybe you can share a bit on this area.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to emphasize one thing that is particularly true for Lego, because we are a children brand. And we are actually adhere to the highest standards globally. So we are very, very focused on children and students' data privacy. The standard is as high as in the European Union, which even like in China, we do actually face some limitation when we look at personalized learning kind of data-driven companies. If a lot of the things that we think are not appropriate, we will probably add a lot of investment clauses to make sure this is in line with our standards. What we see in the AI and personalized learning data-driven kind of space in APAC is it is still a very ongoing topic. We look at globally, we almost look at almost 100 so-called AI-driven AdTech companies. And so far, unfortunately, we didn't actually conclude anyone to be an AI data-driven, like strictly AI-driven company yet. A lot of the approach those companies are taking are using the binomial decision tree and use a more illusionary kind of approach to make people feel like this is more personalized when they actually have the learning. We are looking for companies who are really using the AI kind of more predictive kind of analytics to show what is the next learning kind of outcomes for or improvement area for children. It's not easy at this moment. So what we are doing is we want to trigger as many application scenarios as possible. For example, if it's an in-classroom app, we don't feel like it's now it's ready for like a very comprehensive in-suite solution to provide personalized learning. Instead, we are looking for companies who are actually thrived in their verticals. For example, if a company that is very good at kind of quizzes in class, we want to invest in them because they are actually owning a application scenario where they actually can have a lot of data. If there's a company, they have a very strong data collection on children's STEAM learning progress. We want to invest in them and give them a lot of time to actually develop their pedagogy and technology. It takes a lot of time and a lot of efforts, and also you need a lot of application scenarios to actually get yourself close to the AI learning environment, which at this moment, we don't think is to the stage yet, but it's definitely on the way, and we are trying to be participating in this involvement.
Yeah, thank you. So also mentioned about the Greater Bay Area, the GBA. So I think as an investor, probably Edmond will mention about that. In Hong Kong, because the market is normally small, so a lot of startups will use Hong Kong as a test market or come up with the concept, and then will need to evolve out either in the overseas market or in China. Actually, in each of your respective area, how do you think we can actually leverage the technology or the people talents in Hong Kong, and in what way you think we can actually have a better integration or capture the opportunity, I can say, in the Greater China area?
Maybe I can start. I mean, one of our, the reason we are partnering with Ping An in Shenzhen is we are also exploring setting up a base over there. We see the market in GBA a bit different to Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong, sometimes we carry a lot of legacy and protocols and we've been very successful, whereas certain innovation is breaking away from the normal trend. So sometimes it's actually easier to break through in markets in GBA, maybe in Hong Kong. So we're encouraging the startups to explore those markets because they're different markets altogether. We're not saying one or the other. I mean, it's several times bigger than Hong Kong, and that really is a good opportunity. But we also see, I personally also believe that Hong Kong still has this natural attraction of the West and the East, and therefore Hong Kong still is a very attractive place that we can attract foreign talents to supplement our local talents, to work along with the talents from the mainland. I think that really can be quite a powerful business model to enable startups to really not focusing on so much local dimensions, but to broaden themselves out. And in that way, they'll grow. I mean, there's a lot of very brilliant people in the mainland, a lot of brilliant people overseas, and I think if everybody can learn from one another, I think the startup can really go much longer, and that's our model in looking forward. We hope to get people to co-create more, and mix more, and therefore be able to grow.
How about Edmond? I think as an investor point of view.
I totally agree. I think like Hong Kong is very well positioned. We have the free flow of information, free flow of funds and capital. And we find a lot of startups actually started when having a mindset of a global expansion. And in the digital industry, it definitely is possible. And basically, most of the business have no borders. There are some like few regulatory requirements here and there, but in general, the technology can be applied globally. And the good thing about Hong Kong is we don't only see like local teams and local talents, but really having a talent from Eastern Europe, from US, from Southeast Asia, and most of the company have a very international mix of culture. So this is something that we find very unique in this position. And also in Hong Kong, not just technology people, right? We have an abundant supply of finance professional who has been spending many years in the subsector in finance, and they know the pain points and the area of improvement in those subsector. So the combination of the technology and these talents will be very, very powerful in startups. So I think it's very well positioned. And in addition, Hong Kong is having a lot of like financial institutions with a headquarters and also like regional headquarters here. So what I observe is no matter what fintech companies worldwide, originally from, they would love to have an office in Hong Kong to talk to these clients and to have a frequent communication and get contracts. So that's another area too. So in terms of the flow of people, I do agree. We have a very decent, a good foundation, and more if we can attract additional talents in the middle layer, people having around 10 years of experience, and to train the local technologists, then that will be very, very powerful for us.
Yeah. How about Alex, on your side? I think textile or fashion is definitely one of the areas we are working very closely with China.
Yeah, no, I agree with Andrew and Edmond. I think the advantage of Hong Kong isn't just our market on its own, but really our connections to the West and to China as well. And what we've seen is to help Hong Kong entrepreneurs, the focus isn't just about getting them into Hong Kong market, it's about bringing them out. But at the same time, helping Hong Kong's innovation system is also about bringing the best from around the world to Hong Kong. So something that we have done internally for the past 2 years, we have been giving out innovation prizes to overseas universities, where winners would fly them over to Hong Kong to continue working on their textile innovations in Hong Kong, and really getting connected to partners in China, partners in Hong Kong, and really continue sort of developing, prototyping their products. And that's something that's only possible here because the supply chain is in Asia. And we see that if we can actually attract more innovations over to Hong Kong, get them set up companies here, it also allows more opportunities for Hong Kong youths to actually understand more about foreign technologies. At the same time, we're also creating linkages to send Hong Kong youths abroad as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's something that we hope to, I think Andrew mentioned, being that connecting kind of bridge.
Yeah, because I also know quite some startups, they are actually based in Hong Kong, but actually their market is 90% is overseas. So I think that's a very interesting situation. That's a small city, but we can actually do a lot here. Yeah, so actually we got quite some questions from the audience. The first one they asked do we think digital transformation will slow down after COVID? Anyone want to?
No, actually, we think if anything, we've seen, certainly in our group, although we're looking at cost cutting, everybody's looking at cost cutting, but digital transformation is given the highest priority. And I think that would bring in value post-COVID as well. So we actually see a lot more coming through.
Yeah, I hold the same view. Is productivity gain probably have to be achieved by digitization. So no matter we talk about efficiency or costs, that will be highly improved by digital tools.
Yeah, another question is about Hong Kong's role. So the audience asks, do we think there is a great potential for Hong Kong to serve as an Asia hub for transformative technology? And then which industry will benefit the most of using this technology, like robotic or AI or things like that? George, do you want to share a bit on this?
Well, I think in general, I feel like I think a lot of things. It's really about how you are actually building up the ecosystem. And also, it really depends on the public sector and also the private sector's collaboration on how do you want to bring the future for Hong Kong. For example, I was talking to some people regarding the education space. I think a lot of things is how you are able to attract the talent, and to attract the talent, you need the capital, you need a lot of academic research resources. You also need a lot of the open-minded people who wanted to actually bridge the gap and also have a very global mindset to serve the different regions. To do that, I think it takes a lot of time and long-term strategic planning. I don't have a clear idea yet, but I think from LEGO's perspective, it takes us about 30 years to build up the education kind of edge. And it's not an easy journey, but be very patient and stick with what you want to end up being is very, very important. It's just a very broad a suggestion, but I do feel like building up the ecosystem is important, but it's also a very difficult journey.
Yeah. So anyone want to share a bit on this as well?
Oh, I'm a big fan of like fintech, right? So we briefly touch upon about like blockchain industries. You'll be surprised, you know, some of the biggest companies in this area is actually based in Hong Kong, and we have a lot of talents in this area. So with the use or the promotion of like central bank digital currencies, we certainly have a good role in bridging the internationalization of the so-called currencies, and also with the support of the national policies of a great China Bay Area, I think we have a very good position in that.
Yeah, yeah. So I think today is about time. Maybe we give a big applause to all our guests, and also thank you for joining our panel this afternoon.